Moving on, in what can be seen as a message to the hijabi lobby in India, Saudi Arabia has banned the wearing of the abaya by female students in examination halls. An abaya is a loose cloak-like garment worn on the whole body except the face and hands. The body, which is responsible for the education system, along with the Ministry of Education, said that female students must wear school uniforms inside exam halls. This is happening in a country, mind you, that has only recently allowed women to drive alone. Remember, this comes post a massive hijab showdown in the state of Karnataka earlier that spread to the rest of the country. In Karnataka, girls were asked not to wear the hijab inside classrooms as per government school uniform rules. Suddenly, at the start of 2022, 6 girls protested in Udupi and refused to join classes. The protest spread like wildfire and several organizations like the now banned PFI were accused of stoking Muslim sentiments and even putting children's education at the altar for identity politics. Several petitions over hijab are pending in the Supreme Court after the Karnataka High Court upheld the uniform rule. There are still cases being reported where girls sometimes refuse to attend classes or sit for exams without the hijab. The sentiment among Indian Muslim fundamentalists is in stark contrast to the majority of Islamic nations who are trying to adapt their religious laws with the advancing time. Now, during the hijab controversy across the state of Karnataka, India's Muslim groups had promoted hijab over kitab. You would remember that infamous poster that was put up by the AIMIM. While the Emiratis, for example, have mandated hijab only in religious places. The All India Muslim Personal Law Board had demoralized women by likening not wearing hijab to committing a sin. And at the same time, many Muslim countries, Muslim majority countries, have either banned hijab or burqa in public places. Our Islamic seminary, Darul Uloom Deoband, had even warned against the hijab ban law, saying that it is against the spirit of the constitution, which is in stark contrast to what the global Muslim world follows. Mind you, except for Iran and Afghanistan, and we know the story of both of these countries, particularly when it comes to women's rights, no other Islamic country in the world mandates hijab for women. In India, it was being promoted like it is absolutely necessary for all women. So the big debate that's coming up, will those who were backing hijab, even at the cost of girls' education in India, take a cue from what other countries are doing? Professor Asif Ramiz Daudi is founder of Indo-Arab Helping Hands. Zeenat Shaukat Ali is Director General, Wisdom Foundation. Atikur Rahman is Islamic scholar. Atikur, why don't I start with you? Don't you believe that actually, if you see in context of what a lot of Muslim countries do, what they mandate, what they don't mandate in the context of hijab or any kind of covering or veil for Muslim women, the kind of hysteria that we saw built up in India purely because uniform was being preferred over hijab inside classrooms and nowhere else was purely political, that movement was actually political more than anything else?
Shivani, I for one has always supported the women not wearing the hijab. I have also supported those people, those girls who want to wear hijab. So for me, it's a matter of choice. Now, if you want to take a cue from Saudi Arabia, there are a host of things which Saudi Arabia also endorses. For example, the beef ban is not there in Saudi Arabia. There is pork available freely in the malls. They are also screening the film Pathan. Will you endorse it? Will the other Hindutvawadis in India who are praising Saudi Arabia?
No, but why are you taking this from the context of Hindutvawadi? That's precisely my question. Why has this hijab issue, when it was being enforced in a government school, become about Hindutvawadi? What is Hindutvawadi about it? It's only asking all students to wear school uniforms. This is precisely the question I asked.
Exactly.
All of it was purely political.
Exactly. It was political because the day it started from that college in Karnataka, one teacher objected to, so far he was not objecting to. And then the college committee came into it.
No, that's not true.
or headed by a BJP person.
No,
And then the thing
Adhikar,
started.
don't be fast and loose with the facts. No, I'm sorry, I followed the hijab story very, very much in
Yeah, this
detail.
was the
I
case
also
in the
interviewed
Karnataka
a couple
High
of the original girls who had started the protest in Udupi. Please, there are countless media reports. You don't have to go by my word alone. There was already a school uniform law. These girls have, the school says that these girls were wearing hijab earlier, but suddenly
No,
in their
Shivani,
PU
you are
classes,
wrong.
they refused to wear it on a sudden day.
Shivani,
Even before
I
that,
am-
they were wearing. And even if your argument is that they were asked, let's say a circular was passed, surely a circular was passed after the protest started. But even if that is your argument, my question is that if the school was enforcing what is the school rule, even if belatedly, why was it suddenly made about all Muslims in India, all Muslim rights in India, the entire Muslim identity, to the extent, Zinat Shaukat Ali, there are political parties who were putting up posters saying, Pehle hijab, fir kitab. Weren't these people doing grave injustice to Muslim girls?
Of course, they were doing grave injustice to start off with. You see, this was a complete non-issue which need not have gone to the level that it went. When these 6 girls went to court, there was no, there could have been a negotiation, a conversation with the principal and with the board, and some decisions could have been made. But to go to court and then to have the judgment come in and then to threaten the judges and to have a Karnataka closed and to make this matter into pure politics and sending it to the Supreme Court. And now we await the judgment of the final, of the Chief Justice. Well, it absolutely was totally, it was absolutely unnecessary, and it was a non-issue. It was not an issue that that threatened somebody's life or that threatened a basic principle of Islam. That was not so. So here you see, when you go to see that, it is so strange that when we were looking at Arab countries, we found them very traditional and extremely orthodox and very conservative. But today, those countries are showing you the way. They are moving on. They have said that the hijab, that the abaya is not compulsory, it is not mandatory. People
and there is a place for everything. Mind you, a lot of people forget in this entire hijab chorus that actually there is no ban on hijab anywhere. Even in school campuses, girls are allowed. The only rule was that in school, in the classes itself, when you sit for classes, you must not adhere to any religious symbol or religious clothing. Now, I am not sure why heavens were falling because of that. I am still not sure.
You see, the whole point is that this is what I say. There was no need for the heavens to fall, and the heavens are not going to fall. But today, you see, when Saudi Arabia has taken such a big step, and I have to congratulate MBS and his all of those people, where they have said that in the when you're giving an examination in the class, you're not supposed to wear the full covering. Even though it is optional and people want to wear it, you're not allowed to wear it.
Yeah, and if that country can do it, surely they are not stamping upon the rights of Muslims. Surely, which is the charge? And India was defamed. Let me go across to Professor Asif also. India was defamed. Like, the entire Muslim identity is under crisis in India because of the fact that in classrooms, hijab was not being allowed.
Shivani, let me tell you one thing. Since I'm here right now from Saudi Arabia, the invitation was accepted by me because I was just, having a look on different media reports, especially in India. And I thought there are a few misconceptions that I should participate in that. Look, there are many things. It's all clear about hijab here in Saudi Arabia that, it's not mandatory and it's not imposed as well. But there should be a kind of modest dress code. As far as, these things are concerned here, especially about having banning the hijab, etc. I think I have not seen any of the official statement from any of the governmental bodies, let's be like embassy or the proper channel where I tried before coming to this debate. I wanted to have some sort of homework done, and I personally could not find any of the proper evidence.
So which country are you talking about? In India?
Saudi Arabia.
No, I'm not saying the hijab is banned in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, exactly.
We are not saying that.
Okay, okay.
We are not asking for a hijab ban either. I don't think hijab needs to be banned. It is just about enforcement of rules. Like I said, there's a time and place for everything. Obviously, the abaya can also be worn in Saudi Arabia in other places. It is a matter of choice, and it should be a matter of choice. But if there are
Examination
certain
hall
rules
ban.
that are being put in place for certain locations, is that a problem according to you, Dr. Asif? Professor Asif?
No. Look. What happens? What happens here? Certain locations, when it comes to educational institution, etc. Even I personally feel that this should not be imposed, and it should not be something. When it comes to when we compare between Saudi Arabian rules and Indian rules, especially on hijab, the main problem what I have seen there in India that they wanted to have some sort of covering the head. Here, there is nothing of this sort.
No,
It's
I know.
not
There is a
something
difference
like,
between
you can't
hijab and
cover
abaya. And under no circumstances am I suggesting that we can be Saudi Arabia or Saudi Arabia can be us, or we must emulate America or America must emulate us. Frankly, I don't believe in that. My point is simply this, that surely in country after country, Atikur Rahman, if there are certain areas in which you are not asked to wear a certain kind of clothing or covering or veil, why is it that fundamentalists in India were telling young Indian Muslim girls that no, you must wear it, you must insist on wearing it. If you don't wear it, they are taking your religious identity or some fundamental right away, and you must boycott classes, and at the cost of your education, you must fight this. The question I'm asking is that the future of a lot of these girls was actually being put at stake.
So, Shivani, we should appreciate the fact that the fundamentalist Muslims in India were so weak that they could inspire only 6 girls out of 90. We should appreciate this fact.
No, actually, it spread quite a bit. It spread quite a bit.
Girls,
from those 6 girls in Udupi, it spread quite a bit. How much discussion and contention there was. There were other girls who were refusing to enter classes.
I and Dr. Zina Shaukat Ali, we are supporting the women. If they want to wear, okay. If they don't want to wear, let them decide.
But what about the rules?
Okay,
fair enough. Of course, I think that's a reasonable stand to take, and all of us agree on that stand. If somebody wants to wear, they can. Somebody doesn't want to wear, they don't have to. In India, anyways, we are not like Afghanistan and Iran, and I hope that that is not the intention of some to take us to the levels of these countries. What the question I'm asking is that when it came, Zinat Shaukat Ali, to just following and adhering to a uniform law in a classroom, why was it turned into such a battle that India was defamed across the country, and there was this hysteria and paranoia spread? And we know the role of organizations like the PFI in this, which is now banned and proscribed in India, affiliates like the CFI in this, which these girls were apparently made to join because they participated in a yatra that was held by ABVP, and suddenly there was alarm in their families. That is the problem. It wasn't even about hijab, frankly.
Very true. I think, this entire, now for example, everywhere when we go, there is a kind of a dress code that you wear. When you go to a mosque, there is a certain dress that you wear in a certain manner. When we perform the Hajj, there is a dress that we wear. And that is how the Hajj is performed by men and women. So there is a school in which there is a uniform. Now, what is the big deal about it? All of us went to school, all of us had these uniforms in school, and we never even thought twice about it. So now to bring this in, make this into an issue, and you're right, it did defame the country, because all over there were people, but there were people like us, who were fighting, who stood our ground, and as you very rightly pointed out, this was not a ban or any kind of outlawing of the hijab generally. You could wear it up to the door, you could wear it up to a certain place only in the classroom. That also because of level equality, because you're going there to study, because there should be no identity. And the High Court judgment was so good when it said that there should be no religious identity. It never favored anyone to say that you could wear the saffron or you could wear a cross, but the girls could not wear a hijab. That was not so. It was cutting across communities. And to make such a furore out of this matter, I think was a very sad, very...
it was almost a militant movement. We saw what happened. There were riots that broke out on this. People were hurt and attacked physically. So, this kind of militant mindset is what I'm questioning on what? on hijab inside a classroom? And Professor Asif, I almost got the impression that you being based in Saudi Arabia, you got the impression that there was some sort of a ban on hijab in India. Is that correct? Or that there was some sort of a rules being placed in public places?
I thought not only that, I mean, I also understood after that, that they are banning hijab in the classrooms. And I was just trying to, have some sort of research on that. And I could not find the statements. That was my point here. I know that there are lots of reforms here and positive reforms, and I support that. I also know and I support that there should not be any sort of imposition that, women should wear hijab, or it should be their choice, as we all agreed on this. And there are many new things happening here, and these things are positive and diversified things are taking place here. And one of the things here is that, when I was checking all these media reports today, Shivani, and yesterday also, then I was a bit surprised that, I read the news that Saudi Arabia bans hijab in classrooms. I didn't find anything of this sort. That was my point.
No, fair enough. We are not confusing the abaya with the hijab. We are not confusing the abaya with the hijab, but the concept is the same.
No, we have abaya, we have hijab, and we have scarf. Especially when you talk about the covering full body, covering your face, and covering your head.
Different things.
Let's do this way.
Absolutely. Now, I'm just saying that taking things as a religious attire, whether it's body covering, face covering, head covering, they all follow a same principle. If you take them into account and you look at them as a collective, it was made into such a rigid identity battle in India that it actually did more harm than benefit anyone. I must remind our viewers, as I mentioned when I introduced this story, that there is, of course, a legal challenge to it, and that's fine. But even after the Karnataka High Court order, for example, there were people refusing to abide by that order, refusing to go back to their classes. There were threats being issued against the courts, and the Karnataka High Court itself being brought into disrepute. Now, that is not justified. That's precisely the point I was making. And, Zeenat Shaukat Ali, the problem also is that a lot of young Muslim girls were being told at that time, and I have run a few of those statements, कि पहले आप हिजाब पहनो फिर क्लासरूम में जाना, right? They were using this opportunity to spread that message. There are members, and unfortunately even women members of bodies like the AIM PLB who were saying that ये तो हिजाब तो mandatory है, obligatory है. कोर्ट में lawyers ने बोला था कि हिजाब obligatory है मुस्लिम women के लिए और वो बिना हिजाब के नहीं जा सकती public place में. और इन्होंने बोला था कि आप नहीं पहनोगे तो you're almost committing a sin.
Believe in these dictates.
Sorry? What are you saying, Atikur Rahman? You don't believe in these dictates?
The girls do not believe in those dictates.
No, but sir, I am talking about impressionable minds who are impressionable minds, who are young, who are being told that you will not be a good Muslim if you don't wear the hijab.
They won't be guided by any dictates. That's for sure.
No, my question is that the hijab row was used as an opportunity by those who believe in this kind of mindset that women must be covered, must wear the hijab, must wear the burqa. Frankly, a lot of these girls who were coming out for protests were actually fully clothed.
Criminalize it.
So, we mustn't not escape that fact also. A lot of these girls were not wearing the hijab alone. They were fully clothed in burqa. Now, if you're telling me that is what we want for Indian Muslim women, then I leave that choice to you. But my point is that there is a mindset that was being perpetuated, Zeenat Shaukat Ali, I have final 30 seconds, which said that if you don't do this, you are not a good Muslim. That is what was being said. And there are theological arguments that were also made in court. I know on theology, a lot of scholars like you differ. But there was an emotional and a religious call being made here on impressionable minds.
Right. That is very, very unfortunate. And it is extremely, sad to say that, the verses in the Quran, which I pointed out, the 7 verses on hijab, have nothing to do with women's clothing. It has to do with a veil between the good and the bad, the veil between God and man, a veil between the good people and the not good people, and so on. But nothing has to do with clothing. Now, the whole point is that there is a modest dress that is recommended, and it is very clear that the modesty is there. But modesty does not mean that, you have to, a particular kind of a dress that is being followed today in this manner, that you cover your face and whatever you have done has been prescribed. It is nowhere prescribed. And this is very clearly.
Then why was
further
it made
act
about
of
Muslim
I am
identity
not
and
saying
Muslim
that
religious
the
rights?
scholars
Is frankly
Islam
the
are
only
doing.
question I ask today in context of what many countries are doing, and we don't have to follow them on everything. But if the concept is the same, that this is about Muslim rights and religiosity, then that concept can't differ so much that in India you are saying, despite living in a secular country, despite living in a democracy, that we will enforce this and we will follow this against the laws of an institution. And in other countries, Muslims don't feel threatened if they are asked to not wear a certain type of dress in a particular location. I leave it at that. I do thank all of our guests for joining us. Time for me to slip into a very short break. On the other side, we'll get to the day's top story.